Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'll be reviewing the While on Earth Move Trainer. So 3 things to like with this shoe. Number one, they are okay for more general training. If you are looking for a training shoe that you can just wear for some casual lifting, cross-training hit, maybe a short run here and there up to a mile, and then also for daily wear, this shoe is okay at all of those verticals. So for example, I put this shoe in the same category as kind of like the Rad 1 and Strike in the sense, not performance-wise, but in the sense that they can be worn for more casual wear and they look decent on a daily basis, but then they can also be worn for a lot of different things in the gym. The second thing to like with this shoe is that they do have a slightly wider toe box. So if you are looking for a training shoe that has a bit more space in the forefoot, this might be a good option to go for. Now, the internal toe guard and the volume of the upper can feel a little bit low, so for thicker, blocky feet, I'll talk about this in my con section, you may want to pass, but for everybody else, I do like the width of the toe box for most foot anatomies, especially if you are hovering that medium to slightly wider foot width. The third thing to like with the shoe is if you like training shoes that have a bit more of a base and midsole to them. So models like the Project Rock 7, for example, that have those thicker midsoles and higher stack heights, this model can be a good pick for your knee. The heel has a little bit of support, but also some maneuverability, so it's pretty comfortable while still locking the foot down. And I think if you are, again, that person that likes thicker training shoes, this model will tick that box for you. But now let's talk about a few cons that I have with the While on Earth Move Trainer. All right, so 3 cons that I have with the Move Trainer is number one, I have just not been that impressed with the shoe in the gym. You know, it's funny, when I first got this model, the first thing I thought about was the shoe is just very average. It's very generic. And it's funny because I posted a question on my That Fit Friend Instagram asking the community what they thought. And I'm not even kidding you, nearly every response was exactly the same. And it makes me feel a little bit better that I'm not in the minority here, in the sense that the shoe, I think, is just okay in the gym. Its stack height is way too high, I think, for heavier lifting. It's not the best model for flexibility when it comes to cross training and hit, so it will work for that context, but it's also just not going to give you as much flex as other trainers. And then when it comes to the upper construction here, I just don't necessarily love the upper on the forefoot regarding security. This knit does start to slide a little bit over time, and I think if you have a narrow foot, not a medium to slightly wider, that will be more of an issue for you. So when it comes to performance, the shoe is just subpar. It's just okay. I had higher hopes for it, but honestly, exactly like we all discussed on Instagram, it's very generic and average. The second con that I have with this model is I think if you have a narrower foot or a lower volume foot, you might want to be careful with this shoe. So I left this tightened to where I like to have it when I was doing my running workout the other day. And what I noticed is that this midfoot kind of pressed into the top of my foot in a weird kind of way, in the sense that it just didn't feel harmonious between the forefoot and the midfoot. Now, if you have noticed this, let me know, because I want to know if you have that kind of pressure towards the top of the midfoot like I am, or maybe that's just a me thing. So that could just be a total con that's just in my context, but I would be curious to hear what you guys think as well. The third con that I have with this shoe is I think for the price of $150, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you consider other models that cost the same. So for example, if you want a shoe exclusively for CrossFit, why not go Rad 1 or TRC X2 that are going to be way more focused on that activity? If you want a shoe for daily wear that also works really great in the gym, the Strike Movement Haze Trainer can be an option. If you want a shoe exclusively for lifting in the sense of a training shoe, the Adidas Dropset 3, Rain 6, they all work really great and they cost less. So all that to say, the price of the shoe, even though it is kind of consistent with the market norm for premium trainers, I think it's just a little bit high for what the shoe offers in the gym. I just have trouble kind of justifying why you would go with this shoe over other shoes that outperform it in specific activities. All right, to discuss the performance of the While on Earth Move Trainer, I'll discuss how this model does for lifting, cross-training, short runs, and daily wear. In the context of lifting, there are 2 things that I like with this shoe. Number one, it does have a decent grip on the outsole. So if you're training on wooden platforms or rubber gym floors, turf, etc., this shoe should do a good job of giving you nice traction, whether you're doing machines or free weights. This model I don't think will have slip issues. The second thing that I like is if you do like, again, that supportive training shoe with a slightly higher stack height and thicker midsole, this model will be pretty good. That's why I kind of put this shoe into the box of more recreational or general training. It's not going to be your best shoe for maxing out your squats, deads, or heavy cleans, snatches, etc. But for your more general stuff, this model will be fine and it should work plenty fine. Now, my issues with this shoe for lifting is number one, the stack height is just so high and there's a little bit of toe spring, and because we do have a thicker shoe here, it can be a little bit hard to ground the forefoot and really feel the ground beneath the feet. So that is a knock against this shoe, especially if you are somebody who's like myself, who also loves minimalist shoes as well and having more ground feel. The second thing that I don't love with this model for lifting is that what I've noticed with the shoe when doing cleans and anything where I'm spreading the feet and catching weight, I have had a little bit bit of spillover here in the forefoot. I don't love that from a security context, and that's also why I would say limit your lifting in this shoe to an extent. This knit just doesn't do the best job at really locking down that foot. Now, when it comes to cross training, the shoe is okay. I put this as like your general cross training shoe. So if you're going to, for example, take a class where you're doing some short runs, some jumping, and then just some more dynamic movements, the shoe will do fine for that ask in my opinion, and it will work for most general stuff, so like box jumps, jump rope, etc. Where I think the shoe starts to fall short for cross training is when you get more specific. So doing broad jumps, for example, when you want more forefoot security with the upper, or when you are trying to get more flex through the shoes, this model can fall short there. This model will take you 1 to 2 weeks to break in, and even when broken in, they're just so thick that you're not going to have as much flexibility and articulation as you would with other training shoes. Now, just to add a note for CrossFit, I have used this model for different watts. However, I have not rope climbed in this shoe. I believe Joel, from as many reviews as possible, sent a photo of a model that broke with rope climbs to one of the folks in the That Fit Friend community, and honestly, I just cannot be bothered breaking the shoe just to buy another pair because I haven't loved them that much. So all that to say, for CrossFit, definitely keep in mind that like cross training and lifting, I think this model will have an okay performance, but it's definitely not going to be your most dialed shoe for that. When it comes to short runs, I think this model will work for distances that range from 400, 800 meters to even 1 mile in length. Because they're a thicker shoe, they are a little bit more forgiving. We also have a bit of a heel bevel back here, so the heel does have a little bit more of a forgiving feel compared to other trainers like the Nike Metcon 9 and the Drop Set 3, but because it is a thicker shoe and because it has like the kind of like pressure through the midfoot that I've experienced, I don't love them for longer runs, so this definitely wouldn't be your best hybrid training shoe. And if you plan to tack on more than a mile pre or post workout, you might want to look into different models. For daily wear, I actually do really enjoy this model, and so for daily wear, what I typically do is I'll actually wear this model looser so I can just slip my foot in and out, and they have done a good job for that ask. I like that they look more casual and there's minimal branding, and they're like a good travel shoe. So if you're going to the airport, for example, and you want a shoe that's a little bit more dense than a running shoe, so it's not as plush, but you also want something that does give you a little bit of support and comfort, I think that's where this shoe can excel. Now, when it comes to the ratings of this shoe, for lifting, I would give this shoe a 6 out of 10. For cross training, a 6.5 out of 10. For short runs, a 6.5 or 6 out of 10. And then for daily wear, I would give this shoe an 8 out of 10. All right, so when it comes to the price of the Wild on Earth Move Trainer, you can expect to pay $150. I've talked on the price already in this video, but it is standard for more premium training shoes, especially from smaller brands. But I think the question that you're gonna have to ask yourself, like what I'm asking myself, is for how I train, is that price point justified over other models that cost either similarly or cost less? All right, so now who should buy the Wild on Earth Move Trainer? Number one, if you're somebody that wants a training shoe that you can travel with and then also just wear for general workouts while on the road, I think this shoe can make a lot of sense. Number two, if you want a training shoe that has a bit more of a spacious feel in the forefoot and you like to wear your shoes looser for just more casual stuff, this model can also work. And then number three, if you like thicker stack heights and bigger midsoles with your training shoes and like a bit more support through the midfoot, this will be a good model for your needs. Now, who should pass on this shoe? Number one, I think if you're specific with your training and you want a training shoe for really pushing the limits in CrossFit, cross training, or lifting, or even for hybrid training, I would say pass on this shoe. I think there are stronger shoes for the price point and even cost less, so definitely shop around over this model in my opinion. The second context where I think the shoe falls short is if you have a narrow and low volume foot width, you may not align with the security that the shoe can give you. Definitely keep your shoe in good condition if that is you and you want to try them on anyways and see how they work, so you can return them in the event they don't fit your foot anatomy. The third context is if you're somebody that is big on having a more supportive upper through the forefoot, you might also want to pass on this shoe. The knit in this model just doesn't give you as much lateral lockdown as other shoes, so if you're somebody who's doing a lot of agility, for example, and lateral bounding, that would also be an area where the shoe falls short. And so if you are that kind of athletic person that does a lot of that type of training, definitely consider that with this shoe. And you also have to remember that this is going to be a thicker shoe, so you're not going to have as much ground feel as an articulation throughout the sole. When it comes to the sizing and fit of the Wild on Earth Move Trainer, I think most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size in this model. So I have an E to double E width foot and a normal arch, and this shoe fits pretty true for my foot anatomy. Now that said, I do think if you have a 3E plus width foot, you might want to be a little bit conscious of the upper security. If you have a blocky and thicker forefoot, you might find it also to be a little bit limiting. And then also if you have a lower volume narrow foot, you may also not align with the shoe security. So keep those in mind if you fall into those verticals of foot anatomies. When it comes to the weight, heel toe drop, and insole in the Wild on Earth Move Trainer, for my size 10 shoe here, we have a weight of 12.30 ounces. The heel to toe drop of the shoe sits at 6 millimeters, and this model does have a thin foam removable insole. All right, so now let's break down the construction of the Move trainer. So up here on the forefoot, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up. We also have a TPU layer that wraps around the entirety of the shoe. On the forefoot and midfoot here, and then back here on the heel, it does come up a little bit over the upper to give you additional security. So you can see that's on the lateral and medial side here running throughout. Honestly, I feel like if they had made this lateral wall a little beefier regarding reinforcement with this TPU layer, it would have felt a little bit better, but again, this knit can just have a little bit of spillover. Looking at the upper in the shoe, we have a Thrive knit upper that runs from the forefoot into the midfoot and then back around the heel, and then we have this padded mesh heel back here. The heel of the shoe is very comfortable, and that's why I think if you're wearing the shoe more casually, that's where I think it makes a lot of sense because it is comfortable and easy to slip on and off if you like to wear your shoes looser. We also have an external heel tab and a tongue tab here to help pull this shoe on. Looking at the midfoot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyelets that go up with a 6 back here for lace lock. And I wonder if the pressure that I feel on the top of the midfoot is due to this TPU eyelet here. I had that issue with the Nano X2 Adventure, and I know other folks did too, so I wonder if this is the culprit for that. And I wonder if other folks are gonna feel the same. Looking at the midsole, we have an EVA midsole. It does have that medium density feel. I think with the TPU wrap and the thicker rubber outsole though, it does feel a little bit more dense at times compared to other shoes that have slightly higher or thicker stack heights like the shoe. Looking at the outsole, we have a full rubber outsole here with a lug patterning throughout the forefoot, midfoot, and heel. And then we also have a cutout here where you can see that Wild on Earth branding and the foam midsole. And then once again, we do have a thin foam removable insole, but if you have additional questions on the shoe's construction, drop a comment down below. All right, guys, that wraps up my review of the Wild on Earth Move trainer. Now, would I buy this shoe again? I would not. I'm gonna wait until the next iteration. I just have not loved this shoe, and I'm having a tough time justifying why you should spend $150 plus on this model over other shoes that outperform it in the gym. If you have this shoe, let me know in the comments below. Do you love it, or do you wish it was a little bit better? And what don't you love, or what do you love about it? I wanna hear your thoughts. All that to say though, guys, drop a like on the video, drop a subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next one.